Lynn Paolella is a community advocate and founder of Cambrooke, but her story actually begins in a second-grade classroom, where her son's art project sparked a lifelong drive to advocate for people living with metabolic conditions. If you've ever wondered how to turn personal challenges into lasting change, this episode, Metabolically Speaking, is for you. You'll walk away with inspiration, practical wisdom, and a deeper connection to the metabolic community. It's a powerful story and one you won't want to miss. Welcome to Metabolically Speaking, the podcast that dives into life with inherited metabolic conditions. Proudly brought to you by Cambrooke, delivering therapeutic nutrition for more than 25 years and empowering families to live without limits. I'm your host, Maridith Baker. I've lived with PKU my whole life, so I know the ups and downs and all the in-between moments that come with navigating a rare condition. Each month, I sit down with experts, advocates, and people with lived experiences for honest conversations about what it really means to live with a metabolic condition. Whether you're newly diagnosed, supporting someone you love, or have been on this journey for a while, this space is for you. So settle in and let's get into it. Welcome, everyone, to our very first episode of Metabolically Speaking. We're launching the podcast with a guest who's been a driving force in the metabolic community for over 2 decades, Lynn Paolella. Lynn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Meredith, for having me. It's a privilege to help kick this off.
Awesome. Yes, I can't wait. Let's get going. So let's hop right into it. You're a mother of 2 children with PKU, but also a founder, an advocate, and a leader who's helped shape the metabolic community for over 25 years. As you look back, how have these roles come together for you, and what has it meant to find meaning at the intersection of so many parts of your life?
Wow. Thanks, Meredith. That question really hits home for me. My journey into this world started in a very personal and very emotional way. And just to provide a little background, our first child, Bryce, was born in 1990 with congenital heart disease. And that experience was terrifying. In that first year, we lived in fear of losing him until 13 months later, a promising medical breakthrough was released that corrected his heart defect, and it dramatically improved his heart function. It truly changed the trajectory of his life as well as our own, and gave us hope at a time when everything just really felt so uncertain. But then less than 2 years after Bryce was born, our second child came into the world, and he was diagnosed with PKU. I thought, PK what? And with everything we learned about his disorder, I wanted to just shelter in place and protect both my children from everything. The weight of those 2 diagnoses was overwhelming, and the grieving process took a lot of time. It took nearly, I would say, a year after Cameron was born before I started to feel like I had the strength to move forward. But when I did, I was hungry. I was hungry to learn everything I possibly could about PKU. So in 1993, that hunger led me to connect with other mothers whose children had PKU, homocystinuria, and a couple of other inborn errors of metabolism disorders. We started meeting monthly, not just to talk, but to support one another and cook low-protein meals together that we could all share. That small sense of community we built was super powerful. And eventually, we joined forces with the metabolism clinic at Boston Children's Hospital.
Okay.
There was an MD, a social worker, several dietitians, a psychologist, and other PKU and allied disorders parents and patients were all coming together. And that collaboration marked a very, at least at the very beginning of what would eventually become the New England Connection for PKU and Allied Disorders, NECPAD.
That's so valuable.
So valuable. And what started as a grassroots support group would eventually grow into a 501c3 nonprofit organization that provided essential support and advocacy for New England families living with these metabolic disorders. But guess what? My family's fight was really far from over at that point, because 5 years after Cameron was born, in 1997, David and I welcomed our third child, a girl. Our daughter, Brooke, was also diagnosed at birth with PKU. So now we're raising 2 children on a highly restrictive medical diet. Our commitment to supporting families like ours grew even stronger. But I guess what has motivated me most from the beginning as a founding member and board chair to this day of NECPAD is our commitment to supporting families navigating life with rare metabolic disorders. So at that point, we rolled up our sleeves to offer hands-on cooking sessions, organized holiday gatherings. We hosted numerous family-oriented events, from our annual Apple Fest, which draws over 200 family members today, to fun outings at a local farm called Kimball Farms.
Yes.
Water park adventures, and we even organized, get this, we even organized a very memorable Bermuda cruise with over 30 metabolic families on
That's
board,
amazing.
with amazing low-protein menus. But it didn't stop there, because we would organize regional educational conferences. We distributed small kitchen appliances, low-protein food and formula support to families. And these were all made possible through scholarship programs, Massachusetts state grants, and the dedicated fundraising efforts we've led over the years. And I got to tell you something else. This is crazy. I don't know that most people know this, but Massachusetts made history in 1994 as the first state in the country to require insurance coverage for medical foods for metabolic disorders. So with the bill that was signed into law by then Governor William Weld, it was groundbreaking, and it was made possible by the tireless advocacy work from our families and healthcare professionals. But it still didn't stop there, because you talked about the intersection of how these things came together. So then there's Cambrooke. So my husband David and I founded the company in 2000. And of course, Cameron and Brooke are the namesake of the company. Our journey with the company was out of a deep personal need to provide better and more palatable nutrition options for our kids with PKU. And it was driven by our love, determination, their dignity, and normalcy to everyday meals. So when I literally think about these roles, mother, founder, advocate, community leader, they've all come together, and it's been really organic. And I guess that one role fed into the next. And being a mom was really the catalyst. But finding purpose in pain and building something that could help others, that's what gave it all meaning. I and David did not set out to lead, but we set out to survive and help our children do well. And in doing so, we found deeper purpose that shaped every part of our lives since.
Yes, and that has made such an impact in the whole community, from just the apple picking conversation that you had with NECPAD still going on today, to me ordering food every month from Cambrooke, and a ton of other people also doing the same. So thank you, Lynn, truly, from the community. Thank you. But going on to the next question that we have, we've known each other for a long time as fellow members in this community. I've seen your impact up close. What has it meant to you to have shared experiences, and how have your relationships within the community shaped your journey?
So that's a good question. And thanks for your recognition of my community involvement. But you, my friend, Maridith, are someone who truly understands and contributes to this journey on the inside. So, being part of the PKU metabolic community is so personal to me. The shared experiences, whether you're someone who has the disorder yourself or you're a parent or a sibling, these lived experiences have created a kind of bond that's hard to describe. We've all faced struggles. We've celebrated many victories in different ways, of course.
Yeah.
But for me, that has created a deep sense of connection and purpose. And I would say that in the early days when my kids were first diagnosed, I leaned heavily on the support of other parents. We were trying to figure it out, meeting in kitchens, cooking low-protein meals, just trying to make sense of a world that suddenly felt really different and challenging. And sometimes I felt like I was crashing. Those early bonds, they were everything to me. They were a lifeline, and they gave me strength and perspective. And it gave me a sense of motivation beyond just managing daily life, with my babies.
Yeah.
So I guess the relationships that I've built with the community, both home and abroad, have really shaped who I am, not just as a mom or advocate, but as a person. They've kept me grounded in this work and why it matters, whether it's talking to a parent of a newly diagnosed child or seeing someone thrive because they finally, felt accepted and supported. Every connection has reaffirmed that we're stronger when we lift each other up. And I truly believe that the power of this community is its heart. And I feel incredibly honored to be part of it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely, connection is key. I feel like even when we're talking in the community, everyone goes back to connecting with each other is really what makes us be able to bond more and become more successful as a group. So that definitely makes sense. Thank you for that. I love that. So Cambrooke marks its 25th anniversary this year, which is a huge milestone. Going back to the beginning, was there any defining moment or experience that sparked your sense of purpose or helped lead you with the founding of Cambrooke as we know it today?
So yes, yes. Cambrooke turning 25 is crazy.
Yeah, that means I'm going to turn 25.
That's it. I was going to say because I'm a quarter century older and so too are my kids.
Yeah.
But it really is it's a meaningful milestone. And when I think about how it all started, there really is a very clear moment that changed everything for me.
Yeah.
I was at Cameron's Meet the Teachers night at school. And he was in the second grade, and I was walking through a classroom looking at all the student projects that they had made. And each child that day made a mobile. And the mobile had maybe like pictures or words that resembled something that was unique to them. And when I saw a mobile with the words written all over it, I'm hungry. I'm going to cry. My heart literally sank because I knew it was Cameron's. Oh my God, I can't even say that anymore. But that was the moment and that was my sign. And I stood there and thought, this isn't just about access anymore. It's about dignity. It's about health and it's about giving my kids what they need. And that night, my husband and I came to the conclusion that we're doing this ourselves and we never looked back. And from that moment forward, Cambrooke became not just an idea, but it was our mission. And it was born from David's and my love and frustration and from a commitment to do right by our kids and by the entire metabolic community. Everything since then, every product, every innovation has come from that place of purpose.
That's amazing. Is that the point where you came up with the name Cambrooke?
It is.
You knew your purpose.
And it was easy.
Yeah, very
it was so easy.
Love it. That moment sounds like such a personal turning point, but making the leap from addressing your own family's needs to providing solutions for other families around the world is enormous. What was it that drove you to take vision beyond your own four walls?
So, yes, that moment with Cameron's Mobile was deeply personal.
Yeah, of course.
But what truly drove David and me to take Cambrooke beyond our own four walls and in the house test kitchen was understanding that our challenges weren't unique. So, I loved cooking and baking. And in fact, I actually found the low protein diet to be an interesting challenge. And I enjoyed trying to make it work for my kids.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking, but what about the families who hate to cook?
Yeah.
Or the ones who don't have the time, energy, or even the knowledge to navigate this complicated diet? This diet, as you know, is incredibly demanding. It takes so much time, precision, patience. And when you put all that effort, into making a food and the food doesn't turn out, in other words, you have failed attempts, it's heartbreaking. And it's not heartbreaking just for the parent who tried so hard. But what about the child who's left hungry again for something that looks and tastes normal? That constant failure just chips away at your confidence and at your child's sense of self and belonging and self-worth. So Cambrooke was founded to ease that burden, to give families a break, and to give patients food that doesn't set them apart, but brings them closer together to a sense of normalcy. And that was part of our vision. But, it was in 2002 that the next layer of purpose, really hit me. And Cambrooke had already been in business for 2 years.
Okay.
And I got a call from a mom in Alabama. And she called to thank David and me for starting Cambrooke and mentioned how our products had made a real difference for her child. But then she said something that I'll never forget, because she said that every single month we have to make the painful decision. Do we pay this bill or do we feed our child? And that statement tore at my heartstrings. And that's when I realized that Cambrooke's mission couldn't just stop at making low-protein foods. We had to make them accessible. And that meant literally tackling not just availability, but affordability, because we know these products are expensive. We integrated insurance reimbursement into our business model at that time. And in states where insurance wasn't an option, we worked to include our products in the National School Lunch Program, because no parent should be forced to choose between putting food on the table for their child and keeping the lights on. Anyway, so families around the world were also facing the same barriers. It was lack of access, affordability, limited options, emotional exhaustion. So we began partnering with clinicians and distributors in other parts of the world to expand access. And today, Cambrooke's products support people with metabolic disorders in dozens of countries with our dedicated international team working to improve lives globally. So literally what started as David's and my personal mission turned into a global one. And so the leap from helping our two kids to founding Cambrooke really wasn't a leap, but it was a natural extension of love and necessity, and the belief that no family should feel alone or underserved when it comes to their child's health.
Absolutely. And like you said, the school lunch program is truly a key. I know I had the school lunch program all through elementary, middle, and high school, and we've talked about this plenty of times before, but it was like, I was so grateful having my Cambrooke warm meal cooked every day and not having to worry about the lunchbox and all of this stuff. It was just there at school, ready. Is there some place that people listening could go to learn more about the lunch program?
Oh, yes. On our website, we have a resources section, and you can go to the website. We also, I got to tell you that we're also available in Disney World, Disneyland, and on cruise line ships.
Yes. I know. I lived in Orlando, as you know, and having Cambrooke foods easily accessible. Just going to Disney property for dinner sometimes was very helpful. So, and one of the Disney employees actually ended up having a kid with PKU.
Oh
That I'll
my
have to
gosh,
connect you. But yes, so
that's
it's very
amazing.
exciting. But
And I
yeah.
got to tell you something, that school lunch program originally started for Cameron and Brooke. And
Mhm,
I remember Cameron the first day
mhm.
that he that he walked through the hot lunch line, he was very excited about it. And when he came home, I was so excited that he got a hot lunch. And you know what he came home with? He said, "Mom, I got a tray." He just brought a
Yeah.
tray. It's cute.
Yes. That's awesome. It's true though. It's the little things that you don't think about. Like in your head, it's probably the food that you're thinking of, but it's like I looked like everyone else for a moment.
That's it.
But
Exactly.
yeah, so once you made the decision to take things further with things like the school lunch program and insurance and navigating all that through Cambrooke, what did those first steps of creating change actually look like?
Hmm. So I guess once we made the decision to take things further, to really do something, the
Mhm.
first steps were, they're personal,
Yeah.
grassroots. It was consuming.
Mhm.
We didn't have a roadmap,
Mm.
but we did have a business plan that David created. And we had a real sense of urgency. So I had a binder full of low protein recipes that I developed for our kids over the years,
Mhm.
and a growing conviction that families like ours deserved better options.
Yeah.
So that first step was an all-in dive into food science and manufacturing, connecting with co-packers, food labs, local universities, dietitians, and we learned on the fly. We learned as we went. We bootstrapped everything. Late nights after the kids were asleep, I spent baking and testing, and I'd ship samples to families and clinicians for real feedback.
Mhm.
Trust and relationships really drove it all.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the most unforgettable moments was delivering our first cases of low protein foods to families in our local PKU camp that was held down at the South Shore YMCA in Cape Cod.
Yeah.
Um, they'd never seen anything like it before. So we provided pasta that didn't fall apart, bread that didn't
Mhm.
crumble, veggie burgers that actually looked like a real hamburger.
Yes.
And the gratitude, I would say it was clear. And it was clear that those first small steps were making a difference. It was exhausting, but it was meaningful. And every decision we made, literally, there was one simple goal. And if it didn't make life easier and more dignified for families like ours, we
Mhm.
didn't do it.
Yeah.
So the other thing I got to tell you is that I have to credit one organization.
Yeah.
We worked with the Small Business Development Center. They
Mhm.
gave us some much needed credibility with our lenders, especially since we were entering such a niche market
Yeah.
and medically
Mhm.
specific space. So they helped us refine our business plan and prepare us to approach banks. But even with their support, financing wasn't always easy.
Yeah.
We ended up putting everything on the line. We ended up remortgaging our home not once, 4 times. It was a huge risk for us, and we knew it. But at the time, we didn't see another option.
Yeah.
David and I, believed so deeply in what we were doing and in the difference that this could make for families like ours. Because remember, there was only 3 or 4 products out there, that
Mhm.
we were willing to bet everything on it. Every dollar we borrowed went into product development, settling up. We had to set up manufacturing. We had to build relationships with clinicians. Getting safe, reliable foods into the hands of families who needed them most was super important.
Mhm.
But I guess in the end, that level of personal sacrifice
Mhm.
became the foundation of Cambrooke, and it kept us grounded. It kept us focused, and it reminded us every step of the way who we were doing this for.
Of course. That is amazing. Cambrooke has always had a strong sense of community and focus on families. From you talking about you guys hand delivering things to just the power of the community and the connections that you've been making. As the business grew, how did you keep people's voices, needs, and experiences at the heart of what you do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sense of community and deep connection to families has always been at the very heart of Cambrooke. And as the business grew, it was something we fought to preserve, each step of the way. Because for David and me, it was never about the products. Well, it wasn't just about the products, I'll put it that way, but it was also about people. So it was our customers, but it was also about our dedicated employees who share in the purpose-driven mission that we have at Cambrooke. So from day one, we stayed very close to the community through the international PKU listserv. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I know your mom would know about it.
Yeah, my mom would.
So I'm sure most of our listeners today aren't even familiar with the listserv. But that was, long before today's modern social media forums. But it was my lifeline. And we talked to parents and dietitians and patients on the phone, at events, through support groups, and over email, much of which came through that listserv. We would read every single note that came to Cambrooke, every bit of feedback. And if a parent told me that their child loved something, I took it to heart. But if they said something wasn't working, I went back to the cooking lab to find out why. So that dialogue never stopped. In fact,
there you go.
Develop new products and refine existing ones. And I would say even as Cambrooke expanded, we kept that grassroots energy alive.
Yeah.
We continued to send out samples to families before launching something new because we wanted feedback.
Yeah.
We also hired people from within the community. So my first employee ever was a PKU mom. So we had parents, we had dietitians that were part of the metabolic community, adults living with metabolic disorders, because we knew the best insights come from those with those lived experiences. So they helped keep our mission grounded and authentic.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Cambrooke was built by families for families. We used to be family to family. It was our tagline.
That's awesome.
But as we grew, we never lost sight of that. I guess every decision we made, whether it was a new product, a partnership, or a policy fight, it was all filtered through that one question. And that was, does this make life better for the people we serve? And if the answer wasn't yes, we didn't do it.
Now that Cameron and Brooke are adults managing their own health, and with the support of PKU being very much improved with things such as Cambrooke, what keeps you motivated and passionate to continue this work for the wider community?
So that's a good question, and you're right. It's true. Cameron and Brooke are now adults, and we're really, really proud of how they've grown into managing their own health. And because they're both total foodies, Cameron and Brooke really love to cook. So even though support for metabolic disorders has come a long way since those early days, I've got to say that advocacy and support is still needed in our community. So what keeps me motivated most is knowing that our work is far from done. Access to care is still dismal in many parts of the country. That, unfortunately, is the reality.
Yep.
Whether or not a person gets their formula or low-protein foods they need often comes down to one thing: the state they live in.
Yeah.
That's not frustrating. It's heartbreaking.
It is.
Imagine a medically necessary treatment being covered in one zip code and denied in another. That's an injustice that we're up against. So that's why David and I, alongside NECPAD and so many incredible national and regional patient advocacy leaders around the country, including NPKUA and FLOC, continue to fight for the Medical Nutrition Equity Act. And that legislation, when passed, would ensure that all individuals with metabolic disorders, no matter where they live, have consistent, reliable coverage for the medical foods and formulas they depend on.
Yes.
Because health should not be a matter of geography. So while my own children are now grown, I see the next generation coming up behind them, and I know that the barriers are still very real. Families are still making impossible choices. Adults are still struggling with coverage. And until every single person in this community has access to the care they deserve, David and I won't be stepping away. Our family story has grown and evolved, but our mission is far from over. The need is still there, and so is our commitment to expand access and awareness worldwide.
That's amazing. And it's very, very true. With the MNEA, hopefully getting that passed sooner than later, we'll all keep being advocates for PKU and other inborn errors of metabolism, fighting for it.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Nutritionequity.org, if I could put that plug.
Definitely. You've seen transformation of low-protein foods and formulas from both parent and industry perspective. So what's changed most over the years, and why are low-protein products more expensive than conventional foods?
So I'm really glad you asked the question.
Yeah. Because it is the
so
reality.
It's the reality.
Yeah.
And definitely so much has changed since we started this journey over 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And as a parent, I remember how limited and difficult low-protein foods and formulas were in the early days. Everything was synthetic, the tastes were challenging, and the choices were minimal at best.
Yeah.
You had to get creative just to give your child something that was close to normal. And I'd say today it's definitely a different picture.
Yeah.
There's been a wave of innovation, better taste, better texture, far more convenient, ready-to-consume options. And I got to say that Cambrooke helped drive that transformation, not just with low-protein, foods like breads and meals and snacks and meat alternatives, but also as one of the first companies to develop ready-to-drink formulas that was tasty, portable, and it simplified daily nutrition for people with PKU and related disorders. And as someone who has worked on the industry side, I can say this progress didn't happen by chance. It took years of investment, research, and countless conversations to push the standard higher, because it was clear that the science had not yet caught up at that time to what families truly needed. But we have come a long way. There are still real challenges, and one of the biggest is cost. I know that. Clinical nutrition and low-protein foods remain significantly more expensive than conventional foods for several key reasons, and I'd like to explain this.
Yeah.
First, the ingredients we use are highly specialized. Yeah. They're not mass-produced like wheat or soy, and they may require additional processing even to remove protein. Second, we're producing on a much smaller scale. These products serve a rare population, not millions of consumers in the general public. So we don't benefit from the cost efficiencies that big food manufacturers do.
Yeah.
And then there's the regulatory and nutritional quality aspect. These aren't just specialty dietary items. They're medical foods that are held to rigorous standards for food safety and efficacy. All of that contributes to higher costs. And I got to say, despite the cost, the progress has still been remarkable, because today families have greater choice, improved nutrition, and the dignity of enjoying meals that feel more normal. And that's a change we work tirelessly to make possible. But then I want to say fast forward to 2009, there was another breakthrough that redefined David's and my journey and changed everything for my children and for so many others like you.
Yes, myself every day.
And that was the introduction of glytactin and later tilactin. And that was the world's first ever formulas for PKU and tyrosinemia based on a whole protein source known as glycomacropeptide, or GMP. Cambrooke was the pioneer in this space. We didn't just bring a product to market. We led the research and development, invested in clinical studies, and built out the manufacturing infrastructure to make this breakthrough possible. We provided the first GMP formula products worldwide, hands down. And now GMP, on its own, I have to say, is not a complete protein.
Yeah.
For PKU and tyrosinemia, it is low in phenylalanine and it is low in tyrosine, which makes it ideal for these two disorders. But it does lack a few essential amino acids, so we must supplement GMP with those few to make a formula that is nutritionally complete and medically safe. So it was a complex process, but the result was a product that changed the experience, a formula entirely for those two conditions. And instead of synthetic tasting, full-on amino acid formulas, sometimes bitter, glytactin and tilactin gave people something that tasted better, digested more slowly, helped with satiety and adherence. And for us, for Cameron and Brooke, it was a total game changer. But it was also a game changer for the entire communities. I remember the difference in my kids' energy and their willingness to take their formula. Even their mood was better. It was deeply personal for our family. We saw the impact. And once again, these kinds of innovations come at a real cost. These formulas consist of specialty ingredients like GMP, customized amino acids, small batch manufacturing, and compliance with medical food standards all drive up that price. Unlike conventional foods, low-protein products and formulas are made for a rare population. So again, we don't benefit from mass production or commodity pricing. But our job is not done because we still need to provide access.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And for those people who are listening, they probably know more about PKU. Do you mind sharing what genetic disorder tilactin is used for?
Tyrosinemia.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very similar to PKU, but they need to limit phenylalanine and tyrosine.
So they have two things they're looking after. Raising children with PKU does come with a steep learning curve, as you're aware of. But what advice or encouragement would you offer to parents who are just beginning this journey with their newly diagnosed baby or toddler that has PKU and is starting this full formula and food journey?
Yeah, I know. Raising children with a metabolic disorder is definitely challenging.
Yeah.
There is a steep learning curve, and it can feel overwhelming, and I can attest to that.
Yeah.
But looking back, my best advice is to take it one day at a time and lean on your clinic team and connect with other families. Hands down, connect with other families. Having a community that truly understands makes all the difference. I recommend encouraging your child to build friendships with peers who share their experience. And even if you guys are not near other families, social media and online communities really make it a lot easier than ever to create those connections. These relationships offer incredible support that can last a lifetime. And I got to tell you, my kids were fortunate to grow up knowing others like them. And again, it was through NECPED. It was through our local chapter, support chapter. And those bonds became a real source of strength. Literally more than 30 years later, Cameron and Brooke still stay in touch with their friends. They plan meetups. and they have even attended some of their peers' weddings.
Yeah.
That kind of lifelong community, I mean, that's invaluable for both kids and parents. When you're ready, literally getting involved, it's absolutely huge.
I agree. It comes back really to connection. Like we've
It
said throughout
does.
this whole episode, connection is key in the community and it's going to help you. I myself, just like Cameron and Brooke, have PKU friends that we're constantly talking, and the bond you create is more than just a friendship, but you don't have to explain yourself with those people, and it's just easy. It's
It's
easy.
amazing. And
Yeah.
I know you. I know you so well, and you are so well connected to the community, Meredith. And it's what gets you through. It helps build on your self-esteem.
Mhm.
I mean, back when Cameron and Brooke were little, I mean, having for them PKU was like a lifelong sentence, number one, of really bad tasting food, but
Mhm.
also feeling really isolated. It
Yeah.
was tough. It was
Yeah.
very tough.
Yeah, definitely. But thank you for sharing that, because obviously there are people listening with either newly diagnosed or toddlers or children just going through the whole journey of having PKU. And
Yeah.
it really is great to hear someone who's been through the journey with having your kids now be adults. So we
Mhm.
appreciate that. But can you share an example of how you empowered your children to advocate for themselves, whether it was at school, with friends, in new environments, in the community?
Sure.
Yeah.
So one of the ways we empowered our kids was cooking together a lot. And at a very young age, we always made them be part of the family's meal planning and preparation. And
Mhm.
honestly, when my kids were really little, they always ate what they had a hand in creating.
Okay.
So they love trying international flavors, so we experimented with spices and herbs and sauces. We used ingredients including like crazy unusual fruits and vegetables from all over the world. We always watched cooking shows together and adapted those recipes. And just because their diet was vegetarian didn't mean it was boring.
Yeah.
And I think over time, they gain not just confidence in the kitchen, but literally pride in their food.
Yeah.
Normalizing their diet in social settings was huge when they were little. Okay, so when they were little, I always invited their friends over to our home because I really wanted to be the cool place where all the kids wanted to hang out. So I had the big, huge Olympic trampoline, and and I just wanted everybody to come over. And when these kids all came to my house at snack time or mealtime, I made sure that everyone ate low protein.
Mhm.
And, you know, because I was really focused on helping my kids fit in and not
Yeah.
stand out. I wanted literally to be about inclusion.
Mhm.
So, I'll give you an example of one of the things that I would make all the time.
Okay.
Crepes and waffles. And we use Mix Quick. If I could put a plug in for Mix
Yeah,
Quick, it
of
could be
course.
any kind of baking mix, makes no difference. But we would make crepes and waffles and filled with jam or berries. It was always a favorite. And it was something that my kids could share with their friends
Yeah.
and not be embarrassed about it. They're they're vegetarians. And at the end of the day, I gotta say that doesn't suck. It doesn't.
Yeah. That's
And
true.
then, another thing, for our listeners with little kids, I have to
Yeah.
share, just a fun and inclusive activity that I did, when Cameron and Brooke were little in elementary school. So you know how kids would bring in, like, cupcakes for all the kids to share for a birthday
Yeah, of
when it was their
course.
birthday? So what I would do is I would bring in all the materials for everyone for everyone in the class to make their own do-it-yourself Ziploc ice cream. I'm
Okay.
not sure if you're familiar with that, but
Yeah.
if not, Google it. But
Okay.
basically what it is, it's a hands-on activity where kids each get to make their own ice cream sitting at their own desk by shaking 2 Ziploc bags. You got a large Ziploc bag, which is filled with ice and salt.
Okay.
And then a smaller Ziploc bag that contains a cup of non-dairy milk or cream. Sugar, vanilla, chocolate chips is what we used. And you zip it up and you shake it. And it freezes into a really smooth and delicious ice cream in a matter of minutes.
Wow.
It's like part science experiment, part tasty treat.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a fun way to learn how freezing works.
That's amazing.
And I know for those, it was just like those little moments that, help build self-advocacy. And the kids thought that my kids were really cool.
Yeah, I think it's definitely very valuable to even like highlight that I've just always appreciated even like holiday parties in school or end of the year school events or anything like that where you're celebrating having that cupcake or that cookie or whatever, to still be included in it and still be able to have, even if it's your own version of the cookie, or whatever,
Absolutely.
just still be included and
Absolutely.
having it with you. Or I've heard plenty of parents, I've done it myself, have like an emergency stash in the classroom with the teacher, like having all of those things. My thing was always the Cambrooke butterscotch cookie. But everyone has their own thing. But just having it like maybe with the teacher in case there is a parent that comes in with that cupcake or something that isn't lower in protein, but just so the kid's not missing out. It does
Absolutely.
have PKU. So I love that you were able to incorporate that in your kids' school with being the mom to bring the cool stuff and making your kids the fun ones.
You know what happened with Brooke actually? When she was in elementary school, when she would when the cafeteria would make her school lunch, they had Brooke come in about a half an hour earlier before school, and she got to work in the kitchen with the 2 lunch ladies, and she would actually have a hand in making her own food that day in class. And it just made her feel so special.
Yeah.
And the other kids were, well, how come you get to do that? It's just, I don't know. It's just about building that positivity.
Very true. And I think it's also very dependent on the individual, whether they want to stand out and share their story, no matter how old you are with PKU, or if you just want to blend in the moment. But we're lucky enough to now have those options to share and just execute everything that's going on, or if you want to blend in and have a cookie that looks similar to others. So I love with all the advocacy that you have and like your Brooke's experience that you were speaking on, how she's able to be the cool person and the fun person with all of this. So it's awesome. Definitely awesome. Thank you for sharing that. As you look ahead, what kind of future do you hope the broader PKU metabolic community will help create for families with the next 25 years coming up?
So as I look ahead, I truly hope that PKU and the broader metabolic community continues to focus on empowering families, especially children, to become confident, self-advocating individuals who feel supported, not isolated.
Sure.
And if I can add one more thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Access to medical care, medical foods, and coverage, access to these essentials literally should no longer be a battle. It should be a given.
Yeah, that is for sure. For sure. Access, access, access. That is definitely something. Well, thank you for that. All right. Before we finish today's episode, we're introducing a segment that you'll hear regularly, Community Conversations. So how it works is we'll be asking a series of questions that have come from you, our listeners, so that we can get to know our guest from a different perspective. All right, Lynn, are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. So the first question's from Brittany. Her Instagram handle is Brittany Marie NP. And she asked, what do you find the most challenging about making low protein foods?
Oh. So the biggest challenge, making low protein foods that don't taste like low protein.
Yeah.
It's kind of a delicate balance, creating something that's medically necessary that people actually want to eat day after day. I got to say, texture, taste, nutrition, they have to show up at the table.
And the
What's a
way
good
it cooks
question?
too. The way
Yes,
the way it's made. But yes.
absolutely.
And she did have a second question with that. How do you come up with your new ideas for these
Mhm.
recipes and meals?
So a lot of our ideas literally come straight from the community.
Wow.
While Cameron and Brooke definitely had a voice, especially, in the early days, and also especially when it comes to taste testing,
Uh-huh.
most of the inspiration came from families reaching out to me directly with their requests or their challenges and their ideas. And I have to say, I think if one person needs it, chances are many others need it too.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Well, thank you for that. We have another question from another audience member. Her name is Sarah. Her Instagram is Sarah Arabi. She would love to know what the first recipe you ever created for PKU was.
That was easy. So that was easy. The very first low protein recipe I ever created was bread.
Okay.
Not just one kind of bread, but a whole range of them.
Okay.
I gotta say, bread is such a basic comfort food.
Yeah.
And it's something that shows up, I would say, at almost nearly every meal. And I wanted Cameron and Brooke to be able to sit at the table and enjoy a sandwich with toast or even a warm roll and have it be satisfying. In the early days, making bread from scratch and often using a bread machine, because that's what we did in the early days,
Yeah.
resulted in many failed attempts. And it was super frustrating. It was time consuming and it was exhausting with all the effort that I would put into making breads that my kid would actually eat and
Oh.
enjoy, only to end up with a brick or worse, was heartbreaking. So bread, I really wanted to, that was it. That was it. Bread was the first thing.
Yeah. That's awesome. So our next question comes from another community member, Nicole Weber. Her Instagram handle is Nicole_PKU. And she asked, how has your perspective as a PKU parent influenced decisions at Cambrooke that you think someone outside of the community wouldn't have made?
Being a PKU parent gave me an insider's view into the daily realities that families like mine face. So things that someone outside the community simply wouldn't see or fully understand. So that perspective influences nearly every decision that we made at Cambrooke.
Yeah.
So, for example, I knew firsthand that food couldn't just meet nutritional requirements. That's important. It's got to meet nutritional requirements, but it had to be something an individual would actually eat, something that looked good, tasted good, smelled awesome, and looked like what everybody else was eating. It makes
Absolutely.
them feel included at the table.
Mm-hmm.
And we also paid a close attention to things like convenience and emotional well-being.
Mm-hmm.
I understood what it felt like to be a parent juggling food prep, formula, and life in general. We worked to create products that made daily routines just a little bit easier and hopefully for you all more manageable. Someone outside the community might have focused only on the clinical outcomes,
Yeah.
but for me, it was always about involving quality, improving quality of life in real, practical ways because I was living it with my kids.
Yeah.
And when my kids came into the world 3 decades ago, literally, I said this before, but having PKU or metabolic disorder was equated to a lifetime of really bad tasting foods. And I'm proud that we've played a role in changing that for the better.
For sure, for sure. That's incredible with everything that's been done so far and with what's going to come in the next 25 years. So it's very exciting. I love how you value the lived experience as well as the professional experience, but the lived experience truly will help make you aware and the company and all the employees aware of the real life of having PKU. Because you might love that food or that formula at that PKU event, but then reality is it's probably all happened to us. I know it's happened to me. I get home and I don't like it. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So the lived experience that you have that you're able to share with the community and just create such success with is amazing, Lynn. The whole community thanks you for it, for sure.
And I got to add one thing.
Yeah.
I mentioned several times about getting involved and how important involvement is. My kids, all three of my kids are involved. David and I obviously are very much involved. Our oldest son, Bryce, who lives in California, I'm really, really proud to say that he is the vice president of the California Coalition for PKU and Allied Disorders.
Awesome.
And we just got back from last weekend's family conference and, meetup day. It's awesome. Cameron is involved. Brooke is involved. She's involved in NECPAD. I mean, it's so important, giving back and being, connected with others in a similar plight it's meaningful. And we'll be traveling next month to Germany to the European Society for PKU because we're involved in that organization and we never miss an opportunity to connect with families from all over Europe.
Involvement is definitely key, and even having your son Bryce, who doesn't have PKU, so involved is incredible. So just sharing the connections and involvement doesn't mean it's just for your child that has PKU. Also, it could also be for the children who have siblings with PKU or other family members, grandparents, aunts, uncles, etc. It's just so exciting and it's beautiful with how connected your whole family is and the whole entire PKU community all over the world, truly, with you sharing you're going out of country next month. But it's truly incredible work. Thank you, Lynn.
You're going to join me one day.
Yes, I'd love to come. Sign me up.
Okay.
Well, that being said, that is all for the community conversations. We received so many thoughtful questions. Thank you to everyone who sent them in. If you want to include a question in the future, keep an eye out on my social media posts as I'll regularly ask for your input in our community. Hopefully it will be shared in one of our episodes. With that, we're wrapping up our first episode. Lynn, it's been a pleasure having you on the show and the podcast. Your story and perspective are truly inspiring. Thank you for helping us kick off this podcast with such heart. To our listeners, if you'd like to know more about Lynn and Cambrooke, you'll find the resources and links in the show notes. Thank you for being here with us from the very beginning, and we can't wait to share what's ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Meredith.
Yay, thank you. That's it for today's episode of Metabolically Speaking. Rare conditions, real stories, and a reminder that life with a metabolic condition is about living, not limits. If today's episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you have a moment, please leave us a review. It helps others find their way here too. We'd also love to hear from you. If you have feedback, a story to share, or a question, send us an email. You'll find the address in the show notes. Make sure to subscribe to Metabolically Speaking on your favorite podcast platform and tune in each month to join your tribe, breaking barriers and living without limits. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.